Why Alex Pereira has a huge advantage over Jiri Prochazka. With Pereira vs Prochazka being announced for the vacant light heavyweight title at UFC 295, a lot of people are extremely excited about this matchup. People see this as an extremely close fight and a fight that either one of these guys can go out in. But in my opinion, I think Alex has a couple different advantages over Jiri that at the end of the day will be able to give him the victory after this is all said and done. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA, I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. Ever since Jiri Prochazka made it to the UFC, he's been a pretty popular fighter. And the reason why he's been so popular is due to his extremely entertaining fighting style, but also alongside with the fact that he's been very successful. When you look at his short UFC career so far, he's had some extremely impressive victories. Like for example, he defeated Dominic Reyes via TKO, which was an extremely impressive victory based upon the actual name in Dominic Reyes, because if you remember not too long ago, Dominic was the guy who took John Jones to his closest fight ever and probably should have won that fight, and Jiri Prochazka was not only able to beat this guy, but he was able to finish him devastatingly with a spinning elbow. But even besides that, he has another extremely impressive victory for the belt over Glover Teixeira, which was an absolute war. Both of those guys had their moments in that matchup, and going into the 5th round, I actually thought Glover would have won if it went to the scorecards. But probably due to that fact, Jiri Prochazka was very aggressive in looking for a finish in that 5th round, and he ended up submitting Glover Teixeira. And this victory was extremely impressive for a few reasons. The first reason is due to the fact that Jiri isn't really known for his ground game whatsoever, and definitely not known for his submission ability, but it's also impressive due to the actual guy he submitted in Glover Teixeira, who is probably one of, if not the best jiu-jitsu practitioners at the light heavyweight division. And after that victory, Glover seemed to be at the top of the world. A lot of potential matchups that fans thought could be next for Jiri were pretty favorable for him. A lot of people thought he would be somewhat of a long reigning champion. The skills that he had on the feet alongside with his new ability on the ground just made him a very dangerous fighter at the light heavyweight division, and people were very excited about his future. But unfortunately, not too long after his championship victory, he ended up having a significant shoulder injury in training. And the shoulder injury that he suffered ended up being so significant that he had to vacate the belt, as he was going to be out for longer than a year. But a little over a year later, Jiri Prochazka is back, and he's going to be fighting for the vacant light heavyweight belt versus Alex Pereira. And the reason why the belt is once again vacant is the last guy who won it in Jamal Hill ended up suffering a significant injury and having to vacate the belt once again. So over the last year or so, the light heavyweight belt has been an absolute curse. But now let's look at the other half of this championship bout in Alex Pereira. So similar to Jiri, Alex Pereira hasn't had all that much experience not only in the UFC, but really in MMA as a whole, as he's had most of his career in kickboxing. But Alex Pereira made it to the UFC at the end of 2021 when he went up against an opponent who had a wrestling background, but wasn't necessarily one of the better fighters at the middleweight division. And due to that, Pereira was able to get a flying knee victory in the 2nd round. Now, after that impressive knockout, Pereira was then going to go up against Bruno Silva, who was definitely seen as a pretty big step up, but at the same time, he was more so of a stand-up fighter, so it was seen as a favorable matchup for Alex. And although Alex wasn't able to put away Bruno, he was able to hit him with big shots, and he won a pretty clear decision in only 3 rounds. Now, his next matchup after that was going to be up against Sean Strickland, who's the current champ at this point, which is crazy to say. But going into that matchup once again, Strickland was actually seen as one of the better fighters at the middleweight division, but due to his overall style of mostly a stand-up guy, people did think it was a very favorable matchup for Alex Pereira. Now, of course, Strickland does have wrestling ability, but it seems like he never wants to utilize it, and in that matchup against Pereira, he didn't look to it once and ended up getting knocked out for it. And for Alex Pereira, after getting a pretty impressive victory over a top 5 or a top 6 guy at the time, he then was going to go up against the champ in Israel Adesanya. And although for the most part Israel Adesanya was doing the better work in that matchup, Alex Pereira ended up getting a late 5th round TKO victory over Izzy, making him the champ of the middleweight division. And this was crazy not only due to the way Alex Pereira was able to do it, but also due to the fact that Alex just doesn't have all that much MMA experience at all. So to move up through the ranks pretty quickly and become the champ very fast was just crazy to see. Now unfortunately in his first title defense against Izzy, it didn't end up going his way. Although Alex did have a lot of success early in the first round, he ended up getting brutally knocked out in the second. Now after that, Alex decided to move up to the light heavyweight division, and his first matchup against Jan Blachowicz was seen as a difficult one for him, just due to the fact that Jan has pretty good wrestling ability. But as we all know at this point, Alex was able to win a pretty close decision over him, and that awarded him a title shot against Jiri Prochazka, which is where we're at now. But a question that some of you may be asking at this point is, why do I feel as if Alex Pereira has a real advantage over Jiri Prochazka in this matchup? Well, in my opinion, as I mentioned before, both of these guys are extremely entertaining to watch, and they've also both been extremely successful. And a huge reason for why people are extremely excited about this matchup is either guy can get knocked out cold. Alex Pereira clearly has a ton of knockout power, and Jiri Prochazka clearly also does as well. But although this could be seen as a 50-50 fight, I at the same time think Alex Pereira has a bunch of different advantages on the feet. And the first advantage that I want to touch upon is his leg kicks. Now ever since making it to the UFC, and also in kickboxing of course, Alex Pereira has been one of the better leg kickers we've ever seen, to be honest. He does a phenomenal job at throwing out those leg kicks with no tell whatsoever, and we've really seen the effect of that in the UFC, as he's given problems to guys like Israel Adesanya and even Jan Blachowicz, who both of those guys have been known to be very good at checking leg kicks, more specifically Jan Blachowicz, who's been probably one of the best leg checkers in the UFC. And in his matchup against Pereira, Pereira was able to chew up his legs pretty significantly, which is crazy to see. And when you look at this matchup against Jiri Prochazka, Jiri isn't necessarily known for his ability to check kicks, and to be honest, he does leave his lead leg a little bit open to kicks, so I definitely think that would be a pretty big weapon for Alex Pereira in this matchup. But the next advantage I want to touch upon is Alex Pereira's overall technical ability. Now when you look at Pereira, he has a very good mix of not only being very technical, but also having a ton of power. And when you look at this Jiri matchup, I think Alex is going to do a really nice job at setting certain things up in order to land that big left hand. And when you look at all his UFC fights so far, Pereira has done a really nice job at setting things up in basically each and every fight, where he was probably the most successful in the Sean Strickland matchup. And when you see what Sean Strickland was able to do to Israel Adesanya, it makes it that much more impressive. But more specifically in this Jiri matchup, I think Pereira is going to have even more success just due to the fact that Jiri has been a guy that does kind of get hit a lot. For example, when you look at his Glover Teixeira matchup, which is his last fight, Glover was able to land big shots and even hurt Jiri a couple different times, more specifically in the 5th round. He had him hurt really badly. And if Glover Teixeira is able to hurt Jiri Prochazka on the feet, just imagine what Alex Pereira can do to this guy. Because although Glover Teixeira has some nice boxing on the feet and also has some nice power, Alex Pereira is leagues above Glover in both of those categories. So just due to the fact that Jiri does get hit a lot, I actually do think this is a pretty favorable matchup for Alex Pereira. But of course, in a matchup like this, anything could happen, so I guess only time will tell what does. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Alex Pereira has a real advantage over Jiri Prochazka in this matchup, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.